What's up, Comies? Chef Billy Parisi here, and today I'm going to show you those perfect knife skills that all people who love to cook should know how to do. I posed out the question, what would you like to see me do in some of these videos that are for you, for the subscribers, and an overwhelming majority of y'all said knife skills. There are a few other ones in there that we'll get to in some other videos, but for now we're going to focus in on knife skills. And yes, I do not have a hat on today. I actively try to cover up the gray hair, which is coming in way too fast these days. So no hat, I got hair, it's getting gray. That's all there is to it. Let's get in to, first of all, using the right knife to do this. As you can probably guess, I've got a ton of knives. I come in every day, I unroll my knife roll, and I pull out the knives that I think I'm gonna use that day. And of course, the number one knife that I always pull out is my chef's knife or French knife. This is in between 8 and 12 inches. It's got a nice handle, it's pretty thick in the blade, and this is your absolute kitchen tool. This is the thing you bring to any cooking event. It's the first knife you pull out of your drawer to use. It's the most commonly used knife out there, and especially in professional kitchens. There are obviously a bunch of different brands, a couple different styles out there. This is a Shun knife. It is a Japanese blade. The only issue I would say with these is they're so sharp, they're brittle, so you can't like hack through bones if you're trying to carve up a chicken or anything like that, because it could chip. So any good chef's knife will probably run you $100 or more. You take care of it by scrubbing it with soap and water in your hands, not putting it in the dishwasher, keeping it sharp, whether it's running it on a steel or sharpening it on a stone. This is the knife you use, and if you've seen my knife, which has kind of a funky handle, and it's made of carbon steel, it's incredibly sharp. That's the one, obviously, we are gonna use for today. And yes, you may be laughing right now because I do have a knife roll and knife sheaths that say Dexter. I don't think it's affiliated with that show, and no, I'm not a crazy psycho killer vigilante person. I think it's just coincidence, or maybe they sold it and I just like, I don't know. Anyways. What we want to do is get into some knife cuts, and a really cool little tool here which sort of just shows all the different measurements, whether that's the size, the width, the length. This is a cool tool if you're really serious about knife cuts. We carry this thing around every day in culinary school. We were tested on knife cuts every day, so it's something that I pride myself on, is having nice knife cuts, and hopefully over time, after tons and tons of practice yourselves, you'll get it too. So to perfectly hold that knife, what you do want to do is grab it and pinch it by the blade using your thumb and your pointer finger. So that means the top of the blade will be pushing into right here on your hand, and over time you will develop a callus here because you will be pushing and rocking that knife onto hard or difficult items. It builds up over time. It's totally normal. Don't freak out. You're going to have a callus. Sorry. So once you sort of pinch it, now let's practice cutting. The most important piece outside of even holding the knife is what you're gonna do with that other hand that's holding that food. You always want to tuck in your fingertips and then simply practice rocking that knife back and forth. You can do this on a carrot, on any other vegetable. Celery does not matter. Let that cold steel of the blade run on the knuckles of your hand that's holding the food item. Just rock it, just practice rocking. Maybe you're gonna do 10 or 15 carrots just to get comfortable doing this. This is how you slice. And now that you've had a ton of practice slicing, let's get into this first one called Brunoise, which is a small 1/8 of an inch cube. A smaller one, which is a 1/16 of an inch cube, known as a fine Brunoise, or us in the culinary world used to call it a Brunoisette. But you're never gonna use that. You may use a Brunoise. It's a lot of times used for garnishes and like consommé soups and other things, or just in general, just a garnish you want to sprinkle some stuff over. Anyways, let's get into it. I'm going to be using a carrot. You can use a potato or something like that. We're gonna sort of trim off the sides of the carrot on every single side so that it sort of lays flat and doesn't rock when we're trying to slice it. That's how accidents happen. Once you get to that point, go ahead and slice in of what you think is an 1/8 of an inch. You can use your trusty tool if you're not sure what an 1/8 of an inch looks like. And then once you slice all the way down, simply stack up a few of those layers. Do the same thing, an 1/8 of an inch over, and then turn it and using that rocking slicing motion gets you another 1/8 of an inch until you get a perfect 1/8 of an inch cube, which is known as the Brunoise. And a super funny story, when I was in culinary school, especially the first part called basics, we all had partners. Everyone kind of sort of partnered up with another person, and mine was a guy named David. And I'm like 6'2", 6'3", with clogs on, like 6'4", 6'5", I'm a pretty tall dude. My partner was like 4'10", 4'11", max. He was a pretty short guy. And we had knife skill cut tests every single day, and man, he was not too great at knife cuts. So I would order to sort of cut it up a little bit and scrape it onto his cutting board, making sure no one saw me so he could take it up to the chef and hopefully pass it. But I always kind of did that to help him out, man. What are you gonna do? I don't know. So now that we've got this Brunoise, let's move on to a small dice, because this is something we are gonna use all the time. Just like with the carrot or potato, cut off the ends to make sure it will lay flat again. You need to do this or else it's gonna move and rock around and you might get cut. And I don't wanna be the one responsible for that. So once you get it to that point, slice in about 1/4 of an inch. Turn it, stack it up, do another 1/4 of an inch. And then turn it again, and then do that rocking motion until you get a nice 1/4 inch cube. These are beautiful. This is perfect, exactly what we're looking for. On to the next one, my friends. We are next gonna do a medium dice, which is probably the first or second most dice that I use in all of my cooking, in the exact same way of cutting off the ends. Instead, this time, what we're gonna do is go in a 1/2 inch. So once you are to that consistency, again, layer it up, do another 1/2 inch, turn it 1/2 inch, beautiful medium dice cubes. Practice it, know it, love it, use it. Now on to a large dice, which is oftentimes used in soups, very hearty, very chunky. I actually don't use large dices too often, but we're gonna upgrade to a potato because the carrots aren't wide enough for us to do this. So same thing with the potato that you did with the carrot. Knock off the ends to make sure that it sits flat on your cutting board so that it does not rock back and forth. Once you're there, we are going to measure 3/4 of an inch wide. You can use your tool, place it over to best gauge where you think that is, and then simply slice it, fold it over, give another slice at the 3/4 inch, turn it, then get beautiful 3/4 inch cubes. And I do have to say that your first time doing this, it's not going to be perfect. This stuff takes practice. I mean, they say in the culinary world, once you've done it 1,000 times, you've mastered it. So you've got a lot of practice to do, my friends, before you start mastering and perfecting a lot of these knife cuts, but you will get it. Start somewhere, start practicing it, start, practice holding that knife, rocking it back and forth. You're going to get it. Okay, a few more knife cuts. And now on to the batonnet. What we want to do is make sure it is a 1/4 of an inch by 1/4 of an inch by 2 inches in length. So I'm going to sort of cut off the ends of the potato here. You can use a carrot again. And then just in that same manner, do a 1/4 of an inch down, turn it 1/4 of an inch down, boom, you've got your batonnets. These are great little garnishes or just fun ways to cut up vegetables to use. These probably aren't used too often. It's pretty thick, maybe in a salad or on the side served in vegetables. Let's move on to one of the more popular ones, which is Julienne, which is 1/8 of an inch by 1/8 of an inch by 2 inches in the exact same manner. I'm gonna use a carrot this time. Obviously, once the ends are flattened out, slice it in 1/8 of an inch, turn it 1/8 of an inch, boom, you've got beautiful sort of matchstick carrots. If you're way too lazy to do this, you can get them from the grocery store, but I will judge you. Don't do it, do it yourself. Get the practice, learn how to do it, my friends. Okay, so now that you've got your basic knife cut skills, I'm gonna give you a bonus of 3 more, starting with the rough chop. Here's what a rough chop is. It's whatever you need it to be. This is what goes into stocks, or if you're gonna puree up something, it doesn't quite matter what the size or shape of it is. So for potato, I just simply slice across as best I can, turn it, slice it again. I mean, it is not gonna be pretty. It's not meant to be pretty. Turn it, slice it again. I got some odd shaped cubes here. That, my friends, is basically what a rough chop is. Let's move on to the next one, which is a fine mince, which I do say often. This can be used for garlic or garnish, like this is what parsley is usually used for in the knife cut that it takes to get there, a fine mince. So just folding up the parsley, just rock that knife back and forth, tucking in those fingers. And then once you're here, really just mince away, rocking that knife back and forth from one side to the other, and then from back to front. It's gonna be a beautiful, beautiful little garnish. You can see how finely minced in size they are, boom. And then the last one, chiffonade. This is really only applied to basil. So pick some basil leaves off. Next, you want to stack them up. Next, simply roll it up, and then Julienne, that same motion of rocking the knife, and you have nice long strips of basil. This is really the only herb that you'll ever do this on. But now that you have these knife cut skills, you need to practice them, and you need to practice putting them in recipes so you're not just throwing away vegetables all day while trying to get the perfect knife cut. The first one, check out my chicken detox soup. Lots of nice fine mince and medium and small diced cuts of vegetables in there. And then the other one is the arroz con pollo. I do a lot of small dicing in there. Once you get it hooked up, you are gonna be in great shape with knife cuts, my friends. I'll see you guys on the next video.